Please help my mom and dad and my brother and my animals. Please.
A video message Jeff Chapman recorded in case he didn't make it.
Hey everybody, happy 4th of July to the Americans out there. Up here in Canada, we're not having the greatest run of luck right now. The village of Lytton became infamous because it smashed heat records 3 days in a row, and it would have smashed the record on the 4th day, except on the 4th day a sudden fire started and the town was burned out in approximately 10 minutes to 60 minutes depending on where you were in the town. Jeff survives. He did get a blister on his face and his parents did not survive. So I'd like to extend my deepest sympathies to everybody affected by the heat and by the wildfire in British Columbia. I do unfortunately suspect that other people around the world will also be affected by similar events, and increasingly so. There's massive lessons in the Lytton fire for me, and I'm going to share them. I'm going to share them by showing news clips and also by focusing heavily on the news clips on the people affected. Emotionally, this is deeply upsetting. So hang on to your hats and watch this, but have a good think. I thought I had a solid wildfire plan. I do not. And I'm going to interject and talk quite a bit about what you've just seen and what I think I'm going to be doing in the future because of it. But anyway, sympathies to the people of Lytton, the people of BC and everybody affected by the climate this summer.
Evacuation order, start to go.
Another night of rapidly moving fire, forcing hundreds from their homes. This fire near Decca Lake sparked up just today. So did this one 7 hours away in Castlegar.
The area around us is very dry, and today it's windy and it's not a cool breeze. It is a hot wind, and all of that is a recipe for disaster.
People here are watching the fire and packing their bags just in case.
Like literally a day or two after what we saw happen in Lytton, and feel for everybody in the communities there. It's just a very anxiety-ridden time.
These among the dozens of fires burning their way through forests and homes.
So unfortunately, it looks like our place has got zapped.
This was as close as Marshall Potts could get to his ranch near Kamloops.
It's all black. All the trees are gone. All the grass is black.
It's been a dangerous week. Around 300 deaths in BC linked to the brutal heat wave. And it's not just fires, it's floods. Soaring temperatures in the mountains created an unprecedented alpine melt and flood watches and warnings. In McBride, the Fraser River spilled its banks, allowing moose to wade through fields. Yeah, well, we heard from the mayor there, Mayor Runts, and his background is actually in forestry management. And he told me today he's actually just as, if not more, concerned about the fire threat in his region. So McBride, like many communities in BC right now, facing sort of a double-barreled threat, both flooding and fire.
As many as 1,000 people were forced to flee as fire closed in, and for them, it was quite simply a race against time. Take a look at this extraordinary video.
Oh my God, look at that. Jesus. Our house is actually doing pretty well so far. Holy shit, that's hot.
Gordon Murray, his partner, and their pets were among those who escaped. They recorded their terrifying drive out. They are now safe, staying with family here in Vancouver. And I asked Gordon about the moment he knew he needed to leave Lytton.
The cell service quit because we were trying to check, to see if there were any emergency orders or any information about what was happening, because we could see there was a lot of smoke, but we couldn't find anything. But then the cell service died and the power went out, and we knew that it was serious. So that's when we just gathered everything as quickly as we could, got to the car, got our cat and our dog. And
when the evacuation order was sent, most people didn't get it because their cell phone towers had already been burned. Subsequent to that, in a matter of minutes, they lost all hydropower. So there was really no way of actually communicating to people that there was in fact a wildfire now in town. One of the lessons for me is I'm going to make real sure that in the Shire property that we're going to go into, there are air horns available all around the property. So if any of us spot an issue, we can hit the air horn and audibly let everybody know there's an issue. A tornado siren or something similar strikes me as something they really need to start thinking about for every small town and every community in BC and probably Alberta and maybe even Manitoba, Saskatchewan and parts of Ontario and maybe even New Brunswick.
Because we had to leave so fast, we couldn't find one of the cats. We had to leave her behind, which is very hard. But
losing a pet is like losing a loved one for a lot of people, and it's awful to have to abandon an animal and let it burn to death, and sympathies to him for that. It's not a trivial loss, it's a major loss for anybody who loves their pets.
then we just got in the car and had to figure out where to go because there was no information. And so we tried to go to where the smoke was thinnest, but it was only thin for a while, and then there were flames all around. It was unbelievable. Where our house was, there weren't flames everywhere, there was smoke everywhere. And so we only realized how bad it was when we got down to that road and started driving up it and saw those houses just like literally, I mean, we could actually hear the timbers exploding as we were driving along, and the poles, I think the poles were exploding. It was like being in a movie. It's hard to express how shocking it was. Oh my God, and the jade's gone.
So where do you go? You didn't know there was a wildfire, now there's a wildfire. So they headed where the smoke seemed to be thinnest, and then they actually encountered quite a lot of fire. So you don't really have any information on where to go. One of the things I would probably do is have a good sense of where the wind direction's coming from. Certainly in hot conditions, etc., I would very much focus on any fires around me, any sources of fire near me. They have the railway tracks that really runs either side of the town. So one of the things you want to do is, where's the wind coming from? Fire generally will follow the direction of the wind.
In some of that video, you're on the Trans-Canada Highway, and I'm looking at your view, and I can't tell sometimes like what's ahead in the road. That must have been scary too.
Well, yes, that was definitely one of the most difficult parts, not knowing whether we were going to, I mean, we did come around a corner and have big flames shooting out on one side or the other, but fortunately never both sides at the same time that would actually, stop us. But it was very touch and go, and it could have, and we heard from people that whole area that we drove through just became one massive fire. In fact, it created a huge ash cloud that actually floated across the Thompson River and started a fire on the other side.
Wow.
Because the flames were so intense right in that area that we had just driven through. We finally saw a little bit of sky beyond the smoke, and we realized that we were going in the right direction, or a direction anyway, that was going to get us out of that.
You really need to have multiple exit routes. You have to have a very clear idea of where you are, where the roads go, how close to the forest the roads are, where there might be obstructions. It's quite clear from the video that the Trans-Canada Highway, which is in fact the road that you're looking at for most of the video, is actually blocked by burned out articulated lorries and various parts of it. If they get burned out first, you've now lost road ability to get out. One of the things I would have thought about as a prepper in that area is possibly looking at the Fraser River to escape, but it's not exactly the easiest river to kayak.
And all of this chaotic, and you didn't really have a plan other than just get out.
Yeah, no, we didn't have a plan. We didn't have any information. That's the other thing, is that there was nobody had, although there was an order to evacuate, it had happened almost an hour before we left. We didn't know anything about it. We didn't know where to go. And as we drove further, people would say, oh, well, there's something over there, you can go and check, and there would be nobody there, they wouldn't have power.
The main message, and it's an old message, is leave early. The heat's building, the heat's building, the heat's building. It's very, very dry, very, very dry. If you have the money and the luxury and somewhere to go, evacuate early, but make sure you're ready to evacuate even if you have nowhere to go.
So I just wanted to say that it's really kind of a microcosm of, not to put too fine a point on it, but climate change. Because we are, it's a small, rural, indigenous, low-income community, and we're at the spear point of climate change, but it's coming for everybody. We're the canary in the coal mine. We had the heat and the chaos, but we weren't prepared. And I don't believe that society is prepared in the same kind of way. And so we have to, as a society, work together to get ready and to make changes now.
They're blaming climate change for this. I mean, you can kind of see why, even if you reject the whole concept of human-caused climate change. But how prepared do you need to make yourself, knowing that society, generally speaking, is not preparing for climatic changes that will be awful? And that's one of the things that I'm hoping I'll get through with some of these videos, is the people that do not believe in human-caused climate change, at least do some of your own preps to deal with it in case it's real, because the government really isn't doing much at all.
Because as we discovered, if you are scrambling at the last minute, you leave people behind.
Scrambling at the last minute to the extent that you literally left with the clothes you have on right now. This is what you were wearing yesterday. You're with friends, presumably, in Vancouver?
Yes, family.
What's next for you?
Well, we don't know. When we left, our house was still standing, but we have no idea what is there now. And so it's just not even one day at a time. It's 1 hour at a time.
So what do? Your homestead has been burned out and you have nowhere to go. What do you do next? What is your plan? If you've got an idea of what to do, even if you don't have many options or any options, it actually gives you a focus to focus on. It actually gives you if you don't have much idea what to do, what it does do is it gives you a plan to actually act upon in the post phase of the fire and evacuation. Having no idea what to do at all, no family to go to, no friends to go to, and the house has been burned out and no money in the bank, is going to be an awful experience for anybody, coupled with possible loss and injury and everything else.
We hope to be able to go back and find out what happened there, but the pictures that have been in the media are not encouraging. It's like apocalyptic scenes of whole blocks just not even being flattened, but being just disappearing in the flames. So it is hard to know how to keep going, but you just have to.
And even if your house is still standing, we know a lot of the structures in Lytton were burned down. It is a small village. I've been through it before, tiny. If your house is still there, will you go back there and live?
Nothing's for certain, but I feel that I like to feel that we would. I mean, it's a much larger community. It's a very small, Lytton itself is very small, but as I said, the area is 80% Indigenous, and there's a lot of small communities all around, many of whom have also been burned down and been affected by this and been affected by climate change. But
one of the things that the Canadian press has been doing has been focus on the village of Lytton, and principally, and you'll notice this, focusing on the white residents of Lytton. Lytton's very much a multicultural community. It's very much First Nations all around it and inside of the village of Lytton, and you'll see some First Nations people in the videos, but they are really focusing on the experience of the white population almost exclusively, and that's very troubling.
There is still a very strong sense of community there that we cherish and that we want to continue to be involved with.
For the majority of people in a sudden evacuation, a sudden emergency, a sudden massive SHTF that's life-threatening, shock overwhelms. Most people will still be able to function, but people are going to be very much in shock. There's a whole bunch of people in Lytton who we don't know who they are, who actually ran around and hammered on doors and went in stores and said, get out now. They saved people. So visibility and safety as travel is going to be major concerns in a wildfire. How are you going to leave if you don't have a car? Not everybody does. Where are you going to go? Do you have a preset plan? And the plan should be variable. So any family who aren't in the area you're in should know that in the event of evacuation, I'm going to go to there or to there, so they have an idea of where you're going to be. Because for these people, a large number of them still got a large number of people missing without any real attempt to actually identify who's missing and how many at this point. Obviously an N95, or preferably a smoke hood and goggles and strong gloves and good trousers that won't burn and good shoes is a good idea to carry into any forested area where there's any sort of risk of wildfire. So as I said, it's okay to order evacuation and run off yourself, and I don't blame the mayor for that. But how do you communicate it? Obviously, audible sirens is the way to go, and hopefully the government will get into this, because this is an increasing problem of sudden fire spamming in the forest areas of Canada.
This has been a Dog in a Bonnet Productions.
2021. Hey everybody, this video is about, I can't do this. Hey everybody, happy 4th of July to those Americans out there. This is probably one of the hardest videos I'm ever going to do, because I'm really upset. Hey everybody, happy 4th of July, Huples Cat. This video is a collection of news clips, and I've done it in a certain way to actually hear the voices of the people affected by the sudden wildfire that wiped out the village of Lytton in BC. There's a bunch of prepping lessons in here for me, and I've studied wildfires a lot, but I learned a lot of stuff by listening to the voices and figuring out what happened and all the rest of it. But I do want to say that my sympathies are with the people of Lytton, and this is opening take about number 10, because I keep crying. Jeff made it, and his parents did not. He had to see his parents burned to death, and weirdly,